YouTube, it has been a long time. I am back. KBCLive. This is like 2 years since I've been back here. Wow. Well, anyway, here I am. Have no fear. This is a little late. But better late than never, right? It's about Mercito Gesta. If any of you, I'm sure many of you watched the Pacquiao-Marquez 4 fight on December 8th, 2012. You probably saw this fight. It was on the undercard. Mercito Gesta, a Filipino fighter, lightweight fighter, faced IBF lightweight champion Miguel Vazquez of Mexico. And the reason I wrote on this is because for a while, before Mercito was even really getting noticed or getting hailed as the next anything, the next Pacquiao, whatever, I had been a big fan of him. I thought, he showed a lot of promise, and I still do, regardless of the outcome. But I just want to elaborate a little bit, off of what I wrote and what happened in the fight, and just explain it better here. So for all of you that watched that, I'm sure many of you, if that was the first time that you saw Mercito Gesta, you probably weren't very impressed. Honestly, I wasn't either. But I also wasn't surprised that it ended up that way. Mercito Gesta has been, kind of rising up in the boxing world for a while now, and he's with Top Rank. So Bob Arum, is always looking for the next, Filipino project, the next Manny Pacquiao. These days, any fighter that's Filipino, they always want to name it the next Manny Pacquiao, which I think is silly. But whatever, he put Mercito on, sort of like a pedestal, and that was fine. But when it was announced that Mercito was fighting Miguel Vazquez, as much as a fan as I am of Mercito, I was not convinced. I wasn't really convinced that he was ready for this. And I say that because, prior to the fight, prior to this fight, Bob Arum had been giving, Mercito a bunch of tune-up fighters, a bunch of guys, with, a few losses, a couple of losses, and guys that weren't particularly, they were club fighters, club boxers. And Mercito, he had for a while, he had been practically, really, really, really begging Top Rank for a title shot. And, I see nothing wrong with that. I was very critical of this because Mercito hadn't really performed that great against, the tune-up fighters for me to say, okay, he's ready for Vazquez. I mean, now when I say that, his last fight before Vazquez was against Ty Barnett, and his last fight against that one was against Oscar Suero. And, Mercito did knock them out, but prior to that, he had Ricardo Dominguez, Manuel Perez, and his performances were kind of just too up and down when they were just kind of too all over the place because I felt like he was fighting the same kind of fighter, for each fight. And if he was going to knock out one, I mean, you should have been knocking out the other ones. And I think that's why Top Rank kind of prolonged his title shot for a while because he wasn't really putting on amazing performances. And I have to say, for once, Bob Arum didn't, try to hype up a fighter. I mean, he kind of did to an extent, but not like we could all say that he probably usually does. He gave Mercito these fights, and I guess he figured, Mercito didn't exactly do amazing against them, but he did win, so let me give him a chance. But when the fight came, I was expecting it, but I really wasn't expecting it to be that bad. Mercito really he really didn't do anything, and he didn't do anything so much to the point that the HBO commentators, Larry Merchant, Roy Jones Jr., Jim Lampley, they were they were mocking his performance, and I kind of felt bad for him, because it was the biggest fight in his career thus far, and he had been wanting it for so long. But like I said, I figured this. I knew that compared to the fighters that Mercito had fought prior to this, Miguel Vazquez was not like them. I knew he was going to be too awkward, he was going to be too slick, and he was just going to be too mobile, which he ended up being all three on fight night. And I think Mercito was kind of intimidated by it because he had never saw it before. No other fighter he had fought before that presented all of those three, elements in one thing. And, what is funny is that Team Gesta, Vince Parra, Mercito Gesta, everybody in his team had basically, admitted that they realized the kind of fighter that Miguel Vazquez was. And, they knew that they wanted to call it a marathon runner, but I mean, to each their own. Regardless of what you want to call him, Miguel Vazquez had a game plan. He stuck to his game plan, and he won. I take nothing from him. So, but it seemed that they knew the kind of fight he would present, yet when the fight came, it was almost like they had no idea. It looked like that. I mean, I assume they did have a game plan, but Mercito himself, he just, he claimed he was going to be aggressive. From what they said, they wanted Miguel Vazquez to come in and to fight him, but that wasn't Miguel Vazquez's fight. His fight was to basically outbox Mercito, use the ring, and that's what he did. So, you can't knock the guy for it. I think it's going to be a while before, Bob Arum will kind of trust him again, trust him to deliver again. And at the end of the day, every fighter has a game plan, and to every fighter, I'm sure a lot of fights look easy when you're watching tape. It looks easy when you're watching it from outside of the ring, but then when you get in there, you realize it's not so easy. And it was a lot of elements against Mercito that day, but it was, like I said, it was a big opportunity for him, and he did not, he didn't take advantage of it. So, whatever. Nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes, but the best thing is to learn from them and to come back even better, which I do think Mercito can do. Someone said to me, how can a guy with almost 30 fights, be considered a prospect, which Mercito was? And the question is, I don't know. I mean, the way I figured, if you got almost 30 fights and you're not cutting it, then you're just not cutting it. But he can improve. He's only, like 25, and there's always room. Can't ever be perfect, but you can be better. So, we'll just leave it at that, and I hope that he can bounce back from this and do what he needs to do to actually become a world champion. And congratulations to Miguel Vazquez again. You did your thing. So, YouTube, KBCLive, it has been a long, long time since I've been here, and like I said, I'm very sorry. But I'm back now. And I usually just want to thank all my subscribers, but there's so many more now from when I last made a video 2 years ago. 2 years ago. So I'm just gonna thank, as of today, all the subscribers I have. I appreciate the support. Yeah, so KBCLive, D-Source Boxing. You guys can look in the description and read the article that I wrote. Leave comments, let me know what you think. Comment on the video. And I'll see you guys later. Doing my job, doing my job, doing